I'm Ren Teed, and today I'm going to show you how to use the Count Fast deck called Reading and Writing. This card deck is geared towards kindergarten and first grades. The purpose of the Reading and Writing deck is to teach kids the very basic fundamentals of numbers, which is reading and writing them. So we start with teaching kids to read and write the numbers 0 through 12, and then we also added in the addition, subtraction, and equal sign so that we could teach kids that within math there are numbers, but there are also math symbols. This will help kids build a very basic foundation if they can get a good concept of how to read and write the numbers. So within every deck, the first card is a white card, and this is called the Math Focus card. This will give you a broad overview of what the deck is all about. You'll see at the top of the deck, on the upper corner, there's a number. All cards are numbered in each of these decks, so that way when you're using them, you can always keep them in order, and when you're done using them, put them back in order, just for ease of use. When you open your reading and writing deck, you'll see that there are 3 different color of cards. So we've got yellow, blue, and pink. This is different skills that we're teaching the kids within this deck. So the first skill we'll start with is this yellow deck. It's called the reading activity. On top of each skill is an information card teaching you how to use these cards. The yellow deck consists of numbers 0 all the way up through the number 12. So one of the activities you can do with your students or kids is to have them create a number line, just like this. Put them in numerical order so that they can visually see the cards with each number, and along with the number on the card, the word is written at the bottom. So this will help the kids to know that while the number 9, for example, may look like this, it also has a name and a written word, 9. That way they can get the correlation between the reading and the writing. So once we build a number line, you can ask the kids to identify specific numbers. So you can call out the number 3, for example, and have your child or student point to the number 3. You can also start to teach them that some numbers are bigger than other numbers. So for example, the number 7 is a bigger number as we go along than the numbers before it. Same goes the other way. You can teach them that the number 0 is the smallest number, meaning nothing, and that as we build up, we're just adding more and more numbers and more value. So that 1 is more than 0, and that 2 is 2 more than the number 0. The great thing about these cards is that when kids at the age of kindergarten and first grade are learning, this gives them something tangible that they can actually touch and feel and look at, so they get to use all of their senses with these cards instead of just writing it on a board where they can't actually physically touch it. So this will help your kids to remember. There's a lot of activities you can do with the yellow deck. As I've said, we put in a plus, we put in a minus, and we've put in an equal sign so that they understand that math comes with symbols and not just numbers. So another activity you can do with these cards is you can take them and you can mix them up, for example, and you can ask them, if you mix them in a random order, let's see here, as you flip them over, you can ask them to identify what this card actually is. So in this case, it would be an equals. You can also give them these in random order and ask them to lay them back out. So maybe to put all the math symbols on one side and then put the cards in the correct numerical order. So that way we're teaching kids where all of these numbers go in correlation to one another. This is a good one that you can play with one kid or you can play with a group. They can play in partners. At the end of your yellow deck, you'll see that there's a reading time record. So as they're doing these skills, you can actually time them and see how they progress. So you can take these in random order, flip them, ask them to identify each card, and actually keep track of how fast they're able to do that. The next set of cards is a blue set of cards, and this is called the writing activity. So the writing activity is to teach kids how to actually write numbers. Again, we have the direction card, and then each of these cards has 3 sets of the digits. So 3 number zeros, 3 number ones, and they're in a dotted line, so this way the kids can start to learn how to write the numbers that they previously were identifying. So how this activity works is that every day you can ask your kid or student to take a pen or trace with their finger to write the number 0 actually on the card. So you can set this down and say, trace the number 0, the first number 0, then trace the first number 1 that you see, and then trace the second number 2. This is teaching them how to write the numbers. There's a lot of correlation between children learning and writing, so we feel that if they learn to write the numbers, they'll actually start to remember the numbers in an easier, faster way, and it will become less intimidating. Then on day 2, what you can do is, again, pull out these same cards and ask them to write all of the numbers, so a 0, a 1, a 2, and you go through all of the numbers. We've got all of the numbers up to 12, and then again we've got a plus, a minus, and an equal sign, so that for 3 days in a row, they're writing a full set of numbers. At the end, we have, it's called a writing time card. So as they're doing this, you can keep track of their times every day to see how fast they're able to correctly trace the numbers. The third set of cards is a pink set of cards. Again, you have a direction card on the top, and you'll see that these pink cards are identical to the blue cards. It's the exact same activity that we're replicating, and we're doing that because, again, we want kids to learn how to correctly write their numbers. We see a lot of times that kids will write their 3s in the reverse or backwards, or the number 5 in a backwards form, or upside down, or a 10 with a 1 after the 0. So these cards will help them to know how to correctly write their numbers, because if they can't correctly write their numbers, then it's going to be very hard for them going forward as they start to build on this very basic foundation. So again, every day they can write their numbers for 3 days in a row as a good practice. And at the very end, there's another time record sheet so that you can keep track of how long it takes them to correctly write their numbers. And this helps them to write them, to read them, and to identify them.